Kia ora everyone, you're listening to Voice of Aroha brought to you on Wellington Access Radio on 106.1 FM. This show is brought to you and sponsored with our great partner Host International New Zealand and also Changemaker Resettlement Forum. The Wellington Access Radio, they are generously supporting this show. Today we have very special episodes. We have very special guests, both Vanya and Henry. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Kia ora, welcome. Thank you very much.
Cool. Vanya and Henry are from Ethno New Zealand, so today we will go talk more about that. And this show is being co-hosted with my friend and colleague Luis. He's joining us online. Luis, how are you?
Hi, Quadrian. How are you guys? And great to have you guys here on the show. And I think it's going to be amazing to talk to you guys today and find out what Ethno New Zealand is like and what you guys are doing. And it's in Wellington, because I'm based in Auckland.
Awesome. Actually, it's at the moment it's based in Auckland, so yeah, it'll be close to you soon.
It's cool. So Vanya and Henry, can you guys talk to us a bit about you, who you are, and also what you do, guys, and a little bit then later jumping to the Ethno New Zealand.
Yeah. As you said, my name is Vanya Howell-Kress, and I describe myself. I'm a teacher and a student and an organizer for Ethno New Zealand, doing lots of, involved in all sorts of different projects. And just really enjoying diving into projects that are looking at kind of celebrating cultural diversity, both our cultures here in Aotearoa and worldwide.
It's amazing. How about you, Henry?
Well, I am a student studying classical performance on the violin at the New Zealand School of Music, and I also play various folky instruments, mandolins, bouzoukis. Recently got into low whistles and flutes. But I'm just all about really immersing myself in music. I'm also a violin teacher on the side, so yeah, student and teacher as well.
That's great. So guys, tell us, what's Ethno New Zealand?
I might take a little step back and tell you about Ethno, and then I'll zoom into Ethno New Zealand. So Ethno was started 30 years ago exactly now, or just over 30 years ago in Sweden. And it's this idea of, many indigenous cultures, many cultures in general have experienced that young people in the culture are not so interested necessarily in taking on cultural practices, whether it's music or other aspects, and carrying them forward. And so a lot of cultural practices are being lost. And so there was kind of this idea that kind of grew of, how can we get young people engaged in their heritage and through music, making those links. And so we often have people saying, how come there's an age limit? And it is focused very much on youth. And in this case, we're kind of talking about 18 to 30 or so. That's what we're kind of defining as youth. But really, coming out of this idea of bringing young people together to share their music and their cultures, therefore, with each other. So people from all different cultures coming together. And so the way it works is that, one person comes and they teach a song from their culture, and then someone else comes and teaches a song or a piece of music from their culture. Or it might be that they bring a piece of music that they've written themselves. And then everyone who is involved in that ethno at that time learn all of these different pieces of music. So it's representative of that group that have come together. So for example, I went to an ethno when I was, 25, 26, something like that, in Belgium. It was Ethno Flanders, and we had over 17 countries represented, and there were about 50 people at that ethno. So there are ethnos in more than 20 countries now. So like I said, it started in Sweden, but this idea really took off quite quickly, and then many countries around the world started having an ethno. And for some, it's really small, like maybe 10 to 20 people maximum, and then others like Ethno Sweden is over 100 people. But yeah, the idea is really that coming together for, it's anywhere between a week to 10 days, 12 days probably, I think, is the longest one that I know of. And very intensely, working together and kind of sharing these experiences and building something together as a group. And I guess for me, I really see it as a way of breaking down cultural misunderstandings and, really celebrating diversity and, building tolerance. So, yeah, something like that.
It's really a fantastic idea, and it's great idea to have this group and to have this kind of music to bring and encourage the indigenous music and youth to learn and sharing the piece of music from different cultures. This sounds very cool. Pretty much there is a lot of now joy in that, enjoying too much when you do that, right?
I'm going to turn to Henry. So Henry came as a participant earlier this year. We had our third ethno back in January 2020, and Henry came, and I think maybe he can share a little bit of what it's like to experience as someone quite new to an ethno.
Yeah. Well, I think something that really stuck with me going to ethno at the start of the year was, I've lived in New Zealand all my life, but I never really was exposed to much Maori culture and sort of indigenous New Zealand culture. And at Ethno New Zealand, we stay on the marae and we sort of live in that space, and we all sort of are in that kind of culture for the 10-day period. And it really just helped me kind of learn and get a better understanding of like my place in New Zealand and sort of New Zealand culture. I think as in more terms of the festival, I think far out it was got to be the best thing I've ever done. I just loved being there with all the other young musicians and just spending the time like just playing music and learning from each other. And I think it was, I come from quite a classical background, but have sort of recently been getting into my own sort of folk heritage with I have a lot of Irish heritage, and I've been getting a lot into that sort of traditional music, and found that really I could really get into expressing that more and learning all about other cultures and things, and it's just such great.
Well, that's amazing. That's amazing when you say like the actually music can actually join and put together different cultures, and I find it quite fascinating. But just going back to Ethno New Zealand, like how did you start in New Zealand, and where can we find you guys?
Yeah, it's a good question. And there's a little bit of a story to it. So I was at Wellington Folk Festival, which is a fantastic festival, which had just happened it also happens over the Labor Day weekend. So Henry's just come from that. But I was there 5 years ago. And I ended up talking to this wonderful Swedish musician, Hanna Wiskari, and she, I don't know, for some reason I kind of said to her, "Oh, do you know about ethno?" And she was like, "Hang on, how do you know about ethno?" So we had this great conversation, and it turns out that Hanna, went to Ethno Sweden for a number of years as a young musician, and then she was asked back as a youth leader, and then she was asked back as a facilitator, and then when she moved to New Zealand with her family, and one of the things that she'd said to her partner was like, "Oh man, if I'm gonna stay in New Zealand, I'm gonna need to have an ethno here, and I just need to find the right people to do that with." And so she had down the track a little ways, then met a wonderful woman, Sarah McDonald, up in Auckland. They, I think, met at a park because they have children of a similar age. And Sarah was studying something related to intercultural relations and dialogue. And so, of course, Sarah just got it immediately, even though Sarah isn't a musician as such. And then when Hanna and I started this conversation, she was like, "Right, I'm going on tour with my band, but as soon as I get home, I'll get in touch." And I was like, "Oh, people say that all the time, and like it's probably not actually going to come to something, but it sounds great." But honestly, a month later, Hannah got in touch, and she was like, "Right, Sarah and I are ready to meet. Let's start meeting." And it was like, "Oh my gosh, there's really a chance that it could happen."
That's cool.
So then we, the three of us, kind of started at regular meetings, and then we quickly brought on a couple more people, Jeremy Handler and Tristan Hancock, and then so Tristan and Jeremy are based in Tauranga, and Sarah and Hannah are based in Auckland, and I'm based in Wellington. And the idea is that, you know, over time we hope to move New Zealand, ethno New Zealand, around the country, and have it in different places. But we started in Auckland, and we have decided to remain there for a number of years as we kind of secure funding and kind of get known in that area, and then we hope to move it around the island.
Fantastic. I might get back to Henry for a question. Henry, you said you're studying music, right? So how do you find the difference or interest between what you are studying and what you are experiencing with ethno?
Well, I find them to be like very complementary, because, you know, these days classical music isn't the most popular thing, but then again, a lot of folk music sort of runs that line between popular and sort of the more traditional old guys singing in the pub sort of thing. But I found that I could really bring in some of the skills that I had in like my understanding of music and learning and just listening in and playing with other people, which I do all the time in orchestras and chamber music groups and things, and it really sort of helped me get into that space easier.
Interesting. Thank you. So guys, why not we listen to one of the songs that you play, your group?
Great. So maybe we'll start with a piece that's from the Solomon Islands, and this came to us through a man named Nati. This was not this year's ethno, but last year, so 2019. Nati came to us from the Solomon Islands, and he just brought this beautiful wealth of knowledge. I think he'd spent quite a lot of time traveling around different islands and gathering songs and stories, and this is one of the songs that he brought and taught to the group. And I'll just preface this a little bit more. So this idea, you know, that I've said of, you know, each individual bringing a song or a piece of music and teaching it to the group, it then becomes, you know, it comes alive with that group and whatever the instruments and the qualities that group have. And so, you know, for example, later on we might play one of the other pieces that, you know, you might have one part of the song that is in, you know, in the traditional language of that song, but then we might have somebody else who comes and raps in English a part on top of it, or, you know, like with the mix and meld of all these instruments from all these cultures, it all melds together. So sometimes people kind of have a question of like, you know, oh well, how purist is it? And that's not what it's about. It's really about this mixing and melding, and yet also keeping true to the traditions of that culture. So yeah.
Fantastic. Let's go and listen.
And welcome back, guys. That was an amazing song. And even though I didn't understand every single word or what was said in the song, I felt like you can feel the vibes and you can feel the rhythm. And it was awesome. So, one of the questions like, what is like to work with students that come from different backgrounds?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I might let Henry say something in a minute to it, because I think there's two perspectives. The one perspective as an organizer, and kind of helping to hold a space for everyone, and then then there's the perspective of what it's like from a participant to be with all of those different people coming from all those cultures. But I feel like we are all wanting to learn and learning and being really open to all different cultures, but at the same time also being aware of our own kind of cultural lens or bias that we bring with us. And so there's been certain things like staying on a marae is just such a fantastic space, but it's been really interesting to see what that has done for certain so some people coming from an indigenous background, it's been, I think, very easy for them to come into that space, and for others it's been quite confronting, and so similarly there's things like the fact that usually in a marae everyone sleeps together in the wharenui, but we've been quite conscious that until now we haven't had anyone who's come to us from a Muslim background, but if we do, that could pose a problem because men and women are sleeping together. So we've tried quite hard to think about ways that we can have, different spaces. For example, a space that could be offered as a prayer room, or a space where, perhaps women on their own, could be sleeping in a room where it's only women. And similarly, being very welcoming to the rainbow community, and trying to offer facilities that cater to those, different needs. So, I would say we're not perfect, but we are really trying, and we'd love to have conversations with people about these things, and are really coming from a place of openness and wanting to learn and wanting to improve.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. And Henry, tell us about your experience with this and diversity of musicians.
Yeah, well, I think it's really great kind of each musician has their own sort of style and their own sort of very unique background, and when coming to the songs, it's really great kind of seeing their approach to arranging with the plethora of instruments that we have. Like, I mean, we have various Western instruments and then various non-Western instruments, percussions and all that, and it's sort of fun spending time with each with each piece, song, tune, just within the group, kind of spending the just taking the time to really work in together and find some cool things to do with the arrangement and how we can sort of take advantage of each of the instruments. Like I know last year we had I think it was a Judean piece that was brought to us, and it would usually be played with an oud, but unfortunately we didn't have one. But I also played bouzouki, so we ended up getting me on the bouzouki, and I was sort of using that style. So in a way they're very similar instruments, double
same
courses
family.
and sort of things. But yeah, it was very, in a way it's almost crossing the boundary of stepping outside of the cultural thing. But I mean, when you have the like real practitioners of the music, I think there's not too many worries about, you know, like really stepping on too many people's toes about kind of is it appropriate for us to be doing this music?
Cool. And Henry, you mentioned that you kind of like grew up in New Zealand, but what does it mean to you to actually explore these, you know, different cultures to your own identity?
Well, I think New Zealand's very much a multicultural country and space, and I think as a New Zealander, I kind of do take a lot from many cultures, and I feel like in a way Ethno definitely gave me sort of a broader scope of what it means to be a New Zealander, but also like a member of the world in a way. But I think it also made me kind of want to delve deeper into my own heritage and to kind of find ways that I can really sort of show where I come from, because there were many members, participants there that kind of had these very strong cultural roots in their music, and in a way, like, I guess I've only been exploring my own for the last couple of years, and I kind of just, it inspired me to kind of really delve deep.
That's actually so true, because I was in the marae on Friday actually, and I'm indigenous myself, like I'm indigenous from the Amazons, and I got connected because I left my country many years ago, and I actually don't know anything about my own culture, my own identity, and I was like, I am as well, like, but I don't have that connection. It kind of like triggered that sense of like, I belong to that part of the world. And now I'm doing a lot of research, like, this is who we are, and I'm feeling more connected when I have the space that you can share and say like, oh, everyone has their own culture, but where's mine? And I just felt connected with that, and yeah, that's amazing what you're saying as well.
It's really cool that you bring that up, Luis, because, you know, I think that's exactly, you know, like Henry with his experience, and, you know, you mentioning yours, and we a few years ago we had someone who came, Adam Young, from Waiheke Island, who I think has felt quite disconnected from his Maori heritage, and after coming to Ethno, he, you know, it was really neat to see him kind of go, oh wow, you know, actually this is something I do want to connect with, and this is something that I do feel pride in. And then when we saw him, you know, a year later, it was like, wow, look where he's gone, and, you know, look how much more kind of in himself he was, and a big part of his musical journey was actually kind of reconnecting in part with his roots. And it was, yeah, you know, that for me, as like from an organizer's perspective, is just like, yes, like, you know, this is where we're going, and these are the tiny little seeds that we're able to plant that are actually growing into something, you know, really quite special.
Definitely. Oh, this is a great conversation. I don't want to cut it, but I'm really interested also to listen more about your songs and music of Ethno New Zealand. So, Vanya, what we are listening next?
Good question. I think we should listen to a beautiful Persian song that came to us 2 years ago. So Shahab lives in Auckland. He moved here a number of years ago, but came last year, and it just, yeah, he plays the Comanche, and it was just so moving, and then he taught us all the words to this song, and I might just add, there's just a little bit more to the story that was really neat, in that so part of what we do with Ethno New Zealand is kind of having these 10 days together as a residence, really. And then we have, a series of concerts. We kind of builds to something. And so one of the concerts that we've done a few times is going to the Mangere Refugee Resettlement Village in Auckland. And so, when we went and played, there were people who understood the different languages, so we were singing a song that was from Chile, so it was in Spanish, and there were Colombians at the resettlement place, and so they understood and they knew the song. And similarly, when we played this beautiful Persian song, there were people who understood it and connected, and with tears in their eyes, and it was like, yeah. So when I hear this song, this is what I think of.
Definitely. Let's go and listen. Wow, that was great listening to this. That is awesome. Thank you, Vanya. And we have, by the way, we have also Hamid, who is from Iran. He's our sound engineer and producer, Hamid. And he's joining now in the studio just to ask him a question. Hamid, how did you feel while you were listening to this particular part of music from Iran?
Yeah, hello everyone. And it was great for me because I remember some traditional music from my country. As when I was child, my father always listened to traditional music. Yes, and it was great for me now because from long time ago I didn't listen to traditional music because I listened to pop music, Iranian pop music, and also play pop music.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's not good. I know I need to listen to also traditional music. Yes.
Kind of mix.
Yes, but sometimes it's very good because I remember my background about when I was child. When I was learn music, my father also played accordion. And always he advised me, you have to also listen traditional music because you have to know about your country history, country music of your country. And that's why when I study in university, also I got one part of traditional music, and I play guitar.
Oh, wow.
Yes. It's a short time, but I got some general knowledge from Iranian music, traditional music. That's very good for me because I know all scale of Iranian music.
Yeah.
I don't play too much, so much, but it's very good for me because I know everything about my country.
Definitely. And Hamid, definitely you recognize the instruments they use it in this music.
It's called kamanche.
Kamanche.
Yes, it's like violin, but it's different playing. Yes, but the sounds a little bit near
Softer or stronger.
violin, yes.
Cool, that's amazing. Hamid, thank you.
You're welcome.
And going back to Vanya, tell us how you do this, how you teach the whole group to teach or to sing a song in different language.
Yeah, so it's a good question because I think that's probably one of the things that makes, ethno different from perhaps another kind of music camp as such. As the idea is really that each person comes and is teaching themselves, to the whole group. So every individual who comes has the opportunity to teach something, and not everybody chooses to take that opportunity, and that's also fine. So usually the setup is that there are, it might be a couple of people who are there in the role of facilitators to kind of help the process, but really they try to stand back and let the individual kind of tell their story and share their culture and share their song. So usually they'll, let's say, for example, Henry comes and he is decided to bring a tune from Ireland, somewhere that part of the world. And then he would kind of play it and give everyone a feeling of it. And then would start to teach it, so break it down and playing it in little pieces, kind of call and response often. If there's words in the song, a lot of that is about, call and response and just really getting it into people. But it's in a relatively short amount of time, so it's usually about an hour for the first kind of session, and usually by the end of the hour everyone kind of has the bones of the piece of music. Maybe not all the details, but the bones of structure are there. And then short break, and then boom, onto the next country. So we might then move on to Estonia, and we learn an Estonian tune, and an hour later, boom, on to Iran, or the Solomon Islands, or someone from here who is bringing a wayata, or a piece of music that they have written. So it's all these different flavors. And then and then there's a chance to kind of rehearse the songs and come back to them and then arrange them for that group and for that. So that, that's kind of where the facilitators, have a role in helping to guide that process so that it can really suit the group with the instruments they have and come to a sound that is, really performance ready, and kind of tighten things up. And then kind of towards the end of the week, it's like really just running through all whatever it is. It might be 15 different songs or 20 different songs, kind of one after the other, and getting them ready for the performances. And then we move into performance mode.
It's great, lovely. Henry, tell us about you. Have you also shared the same experience with Hamid? Have you listened to the traditional music before, or you just started to listen to the traditional music?
Well, I mean, over the last couple of years, I've sort of been very much getting into Irish traditional music and sort of Celtic traditional music. I found sort of about 2 years ago, I sort of had no idea of where I'd come from or anything like that. And then my family went to a sort of family reunion that we were sort of a part of, but hadn't gone to since I think I was a little child. And that was really, I guess, a big jumping off point for me, because I managed to meet all my sort of relatives in the country, and they kind of gave me a great introduction to all this lovely music, and gave me sort of a great appreciation of the music and where I come from.
That's cool. That's very nice. Vanya, can you tell us more about the audience to understand? So how Ethno work? Do a person need to be a musician or something?
Yes. Oh, that's such a good point. So anyone who that's a music, that's an instrument as well, your body, but can apply. And the thing is, it's actually not so much as applying as just registering, and everyone is welcome. So all abilities are welcome. And it's always really amazing to see, we have some people who are just starting out their musical journey, and others who are amazing, accomplished musicians like Henry, who is, taken music as his path and is studying it very, very strongly, and everyone in between. So there's no audition. It's anyone and everyone is welcome, and all instruments are also welcome. Although it's always interesting to see, if we have 6 percussionists and 1 fiddle player, it's like, okay, well, we might do this, or, and can you sing as well? And, so it's always becomes kind of a creative process, but everyone is welcome. The thing that is a little bit more constraining is the age. And as I mentioned at the beginning, that's really because of wanting to support kind of traditional music to come alive in younger generations and to really continue, so that it's not dying out. So it's not we don't want people who are over 30 to play. There's just not, there needs to be more projects that get started that can do that. So the age range is really between 18 and 30, but otherwise everyone is welcome.
That's great, Vanya. And so can you tell us maybe how big is the Ethno group or the team?
Yeah, that's great. A great question, because we have our organization team, and I mentioned earlier that our members, there's 5 of us, but actually we've recently become 6, which has just been really exciting. And we've had Kai join us, who has been a part of a number of ethno organizations around the world, and he's just brought this wealth of knowledge, and it's just felt like a really exciting new addition to our team.
That's great. Thank you so much. Lovely to hear from you. Cool. So maybe last question, if I ask about Vanya, what's next? What do you have for Ethno New Zealand? What they are planning and programs coming next?
Yeah, great. So basically Ethno New Zealand runs every year in January for give or take 10 days. So this year coming will be from the 23rd of January till the 31st. And this year it's going to be on Waiheke Island at Piratahi Marae. And then we'll move towards the later stage. Our concerts, will be on Waiheke and then in Auckland, and then we'll end at Auckland Folk Festival, which is always a really exciting, big venue to play at, and welcoming community. And so we're now at the point where we're really looking for people who want to come and be a part of Ethno New Zealand coming. So we have a website and a Facebook page. Just look for Ethno New Zealand, and there's a lot more information there. And we also have some scholarships on offer. So we have 3 different kinds of scholarships. One that is for people coming from a refugee background. And if you're interested in this, it's best to contact us through Ethno New Zealand, because that information isn't on the website yet. It'll be coming, but otherwise just get straight in contact with us. And then we have 2 other scholarships. One is kind of much more geared at international or foreign nationals, perhaps I could say. So if you are a resident, you can qualify, but if you're a citizen of New Zealand, you do not qualify for this one. And or it can also be for people on temporary visas, so travelers, you can apply. And then we have another one that is particularly for citizens and residents of New Zealand. So yeah, kind of covering a whole series of people from different backgrounds. So do have a look at the website. The information is there. Look on our Facebook page. Email us at ethnonewzealand at gmail.com. And yeah, we'd really love to hear from you. There's a registration forms there. And if you're genuinely interested in coming, there's a registration form. So sign up as soon as you can. We're definitely going to keep it a bit smaller this year, so places are going to be limited. It's for the 10 days, it costs $500, and some people go, oh my gosh, that feels like such a lot of money. And other people go, well, considering that you're getting fed for 10 days and housed for 10 days and you're getting to meet all these amazing people and you're learning a plethora of beautiful songs and meeting all these people, amazing people from all these different cultures, actually $500 is hardly anything. So it is, but it is something to think about if you want to give a young person an amazing Christmas gift or birthday gift. It's pretty special in that way. We can, we've also been encouraging communities to get behind the rangatahi. This is, to support them as a group, to send one person, but bands can also apply, and we have a bit of a discount for if a group applies together as a band. And then there's one other aspect to this, and so for people who are thinking, oh, I'm interested, but I'm not quite sure what this might look like, I'd like to know a little bit more. We're going to have a workshop in Wellington and a workshop in Auckland. We already had our Tauranga workshop, but the Auckland and Wellington ones are still to come. So the Wellington one will be on the 7th of November, and it will start at 1:30, and it's going to be at Newtown Community Centre. So that's on the 7th of November. Come and join us. It's welcome to all ages, all abilities, all instruments. Just come, get a feel for it. Same thing in Auckland, but the Auckland workshop will be on the 14th of November at 2 p.m. at Ockham Collective, which is in Grafton. So yeah, if you want any more details about that, just get in touch with us at Ethno New Zealand.
Well, there's so many amazing opportunities that you guys have, for different communities, and especially when you mention there's a scholarship for our communities, the communities from refugee background, and that's awesome. And if you don't have plans, just sign up in next year as well, 10 days in the camp, ooh, I want to go too. So we're listening to our last song, and could you tell us about the song?
Yeah, so this is a really special piece. We had 2 wonderful musicians coming from Australia, Indigenous Australians, Juz and Mux, and they brought this really beautiful piece of music, and then we had, we added all these elements to it. So as I was talking about how we kind of arrange a piece of music and we see what the group has and what the group wants to bring in, and so we had different people say, oh, actually I can really feel what this song is about. And it's kind of about our earth and looking after it, and treading gently on it, but then also the impact of humans, and so one of our musicians was rapping on it, and so we added all these different elements, so you can feel all the different cultural aspects all in this one piece, but it's also got this really strong Indigenous flavor.
It's great.
Well, guys, before we listen to the song, I just want to thank you for coming. Thanks for sharing all the news, and I just want to encourage you to keep doing the work that you're doing, because it's amazing to see what you guys are doing, because I haven't seen something like this, so I'm just honored to be before you guys today. So thanks for coming.
Oh, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for having us. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much, and let's listen and enjoy last song.
Jagannanya boya gali yowaluga ye Ngalangale nyalangi guriabo Jagannanya boya gali yowaluga ye Ngalangale nyalangi guriabo Jagannanya boya gali yowaluga Ngalangale nyalangi guriabo Jagannanya boya gali yowaluga Ngalangale nyalangi guriabo
Eddie Mambo had a dream. This is the pressure to move forward, just step out of screen. As a people in the nation, should reign supreme. Gotta stick it to the man and I work for free. There's a time to be patient and a time to slack. It's a simple method course, just to run out of breath. And free West Papua, so the land is kept. How do we end up with nothing but the country's in debt? The process to the cause, give them drugs and guns. Governments against the natives, that's how stuff runs. Say they're not racist, but got some messed up puns. You can say what you want, but we still have fun. We've been segregated, intimidated for way too long. We need a brother who's a leader, a brother who's strong. We should unite, move forward and get along. But I guess that's why I'm here, making a song. But
Jagannanya boya gali yowaluga Ngalangale nyalangi guriabo Jagannanya boya gali yowaluga Ngalangale nyalangi guriabo
Yo, 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 yo. Connection, breaking segregation, human race. I can't take a place in the problems of segregate. We can't make a place for the people, shared vision. Breaking on the walls of hatred, my only mission. Collision of all different brothers, different lands, different culture, different hands. Everybody just the same, man. Same people, single-minded soul people. Why do we put the culture on a seep and build the ones that call them sequel? Do you hear it? The spirit in the trees, land, mountain, air, and trees, and it's looking out for you and me. If you think that you're lost, don't be afraid. We'd be looking for the future, but our dreams must be the same. Don't play these games, don't use your culture to incite fear into others. Just build up, they're gonna be alright. Connecting all the people across the earth, black or white, rich or poor, and we're looking for a rebirth.
Jagannanya boya gali yowaluga Ngalangale nyalangi guriabo Jagannanya boya gali yowaluga Ngalangale nyalangi guriabo Gloria.